Hey everyone, this is Kimberly, and I'm really excited to bring SEMA. This is a faith, finances, and a compatible energy community. And today we are going to be starting the countdown to character verdict. So, as we know, during the year, there's all types of seasons, and really there's a countdown to some new transition. And being this time of year, there's a winding down, a reflection. What have we accomplished during the year? What do we want to accomplish in the upcoming year? And so, as we do this reflection and look at our character, what has been the harvest of our year's worth of effort, we're going to be examining a concept known as be not a respecter of persons. It's an ancient concept, and really it is as applicable today as it was in ancient times. So we are in chapter 3 because it's a series of SEMA faith, finances, and compatible energy communities. And we are going to be looking at three major texts. These scriptures are coming from Numbers chapter 15, verse 12 through 15, Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13 through 14, as well as Proverbs chapter 24, verse 23 through 25. The title of this message, this life journey experience is Be Not a Respecter of Persons, and use the academic lens, community, and personal decision-making perspective. So without further ado, let's read the biblical text and then let the scripture speak to us, because the scripture has its voice and it's up to us to be able to interpret, discern, and put it into context. So therefore, Numbers chapter 15, starting with verse 12. According to the number that ye shall prepare, so shall ye do to every one according to their number. And all that are born of the country shall do these things after his manner, or this manner, in offering an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. And if a stranger sojourn with you, or whosoever be among you in your generations, and will offer an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord, as ye do, so he shall do. One ordinance shall ye both, for you of the congregation of the Jews, the born Jews, and also the stranger, which means the Gentiles, that sojourn with you, an ordinance forever in your generations. As you are, so shall the stranger be before the Lord. One law and one manner shall be for you and for the stranger who sojourns with you. So sojourneth is whoever is traveling or is staying with you. And now we will go to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. And lastly, to top it off, Proverbs chapter 24, verse 23 through 25. These things also belong to the wise. It is not good to have respect of persons in judgment. He that saith unto the wicked, Thou art righteous, him shall the people curse, nations shall abhor him. But to them that rebuke him shall be a delight, and a good blessings shall come upon them. So, welcome to this scripture examination and dissection from an academic, professional, commerce, community, and personal decision making. So, Bible scholars, historians, civic guardians, modern light bearers, and the general community of compatible energy and ethics and values, welcome. This is a centerpiece topic that has stood the test of time throughout ages. Be not a respecter of persons. It is the foundation of our democracy, the creed and the code to many of our different companies, organizations, and many policies that we see in the workplace, in academia, governance, and in many different venues. And it really has a very, very impactful historical impact to me, and I think many will find it of similar measure when we see, even in the First Testament, that the God of the Bible, the God of Israel, the line of the tribe of Judah, had arrangements, actually had inbuilt protocols, even an expectation that Gentiles, non-Jews, would participate in the covenant. So the covenant really was accessible to whosoever was repentant, righteous, whosoever had an accountability or intimacy with God. And as long as the Gentile would or already had the ethical standards, they could make offerings to the exact same altar that the born Jew would, and that would be accepted. So this concept of parity, of fairness, and a congruent, measurable, and transparent standard really goes back even into the First Testament in ancient Israel. And so we saw that there were Gentiles living among the ancient Israelites, and that they too, there were groups that were not Jews, were not even planning on converting, but had a relationship with the God of the First Testament, the God of the Bible, the God of the covenant. So what are the ramifications? So let's go over the points. Number one, whether it is spiritual or whether it's in a professional setting, having congruent and fair standards creates reverence, it creates respect and harmony. So reverence, respect, and harmony are a byproduct of having fair, congruent, and transparent standards. Point number two is that being a respecter of the value system and of God or the higher values is the inverse of being a respecter of persons. So when we have respect for the values and the consequences our decisions have in comparison to the value system and not people pleasing, we are going to be more tempered, regulated, and more reliable and more trustworthy. Lastly, many times we think being a respecter of persons is esteeming somebody who is the other, somebody else, based off of their based off of their wealth, their prominence, instead of weighing their character. Did you know that we could be respecters of persons in just elevating ourselves, us as an individual, above others, above also the value system that others are being held accountable to and do apply to us, but we don't think it does. That is a form of respect of persons, very frequently known as narcissism or self-centeredness. So we shouldn't be a respecter of persons for toward other people, and we shouldn't be a respecter of persons in the result that we think we're above the value system that we collectively are accountable to. So let's go over some really quick details, because honestly, we never get to unravel everything in just one sitting. It's going to be studying over multiple sessions. So number one, Numbers chapter 15 verse 16, be not a respecter of persons, because there is a standard, measurable value standard. And God does not have a standard for the Jew and a standard for the Gentile. This is prolific because even in ancient times, God was like, it's going to be the same standard whether the Gentile wants to worship me and reverence me. They're going to bring their offering with the same code of conduct, the same cleanliness, the same ceremony diet, with the same reverence expectation, and the same accountability thereafter. It's not higher or lower than the Jew. And this is very profound and mind-blowing, because there's definitely an appreciation for each ethnic group, but when it comes to that altar, which very much is relevant in how we ascend in life and how rich our harvests are going to be, God is like, the standard doesn't drop. Whoever wants to lift themselves and maintain themselves at that standard, bring your offering. And it applies to Jew and Gentile. So in Numbers chapter 15 verse 16, it says, be not a respecter of persons regarding the altar, in summary. But in verse 16, it says explicitly, one law and one manner. It will be for you and for the stranger. There's no rewriting it. This is very unique because number one, it means there is access to the blessing. That's what the altar represents. Even in ancient times, there was a knowledge in the nations like, there is something to the God of the covenant, and how this weaker, fewer in number nation seems to be scoring victories. And there were definitely Gentiles who were drawn to the faithfulness of the God of Israel and did worship and bring offerings. And when those Gentiles arrived, it was the same standard, one law and one manner. So there was not a second class anything. And that is mind-blowing to me, and that's very encouraging. That also means there's the same standard, there's the same responsibility. In addition, Numbers chapter 15 and verse 15 says there's one ordinance. So there's an ordinance that is same for the born Jew as it is for the stranger who is going to participate in the covenant altar ritual. And we know the altar today is not just where the physical material offerings are given. It's also our heart, the mindset, the accountability. And then we look at Numbers in that respect. In Ecclesiastes, this is the whole totality of the matter. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 14, it says, God will be the judge of every work. In point 2, we talked about how God centered or higher moral centeredness inversely makes the person. It's the inverse of being individual or respecter of persons. You're not going to be human centered, because to be morally centered, God centered, it means I believe God's final judgment is going to have more weight. And that means when people's fluctuating temperatures, temperaments, whims, and opinions change, popularity changes, there is an unchanging, measurable, and a transparent standard. And that makes us more reliable as decision makers, and it makes us less vulnerable to bribery, to corruption, and various forms of vices that we don't want on our record. Going to the end of the year, going to the start of the year, and we definitely don't want in judgment, whether it's spiritual judgments, final judgment, if you the apocalyptic judgment. We don't want that on our record. We don't want it on our record as business owners, as supervisors, in leadership. We want to be reliable and have sound decision making, free from partiality and questionable moral motives. We don't want conflict of interests. And so, priesthood, when we look at the conclusion of the matter, and God once again reaffirms, don't be a respecter of persons, because the person who says to the wicked, you are righteous, the rest of the community is going to be like, no, time out. We know what the standard is. That's wickedness. And you need to call it for what it is. And we need to be on record for that. And hey, I'm going to rebuke wickedness, will receive a blessing. So the decision has to be decided. Are we going to be adherents to the moral, transparent, and to the moral code? Or are we going to be respecter of persons, people pleasers, which will turn us into hypocrites, which will turn us into bribery acceptors, and really follow corruption very fast? So as we reach this countdown season, what's our character verdict gonna show? If people don't like us, we're not gonna please everybody. We're not. But at the end of the day, having a record where we're unliked because we are fair and impartial is far better than being a hypocrite, double standard, having vacillating boundaries and vacillating values. So, in closing, the message for today was about number one, showing us that having uniform standards is going to create reverence, respect, and harmony. Number two is that having adherence to the values is the inverse of being a respecter of persons. And number three, we are just going to have greater harmony in our life, in our business, and in our commerce when we are not a respecter of person, whether it is the other person or whether it's us being a respecter of our personal selves, being above the ethical values. So priesthood, or if you're clergy, if you're academia, if you're a business sector, how have compromising values and compromising code of conduct brought problems to your workplace? How has it caused problems in your congregations? How has it smeared reputations based off of facts, not rumors and hearsay? How has resolving unfairness in a fair and impartial way brought healing, brought synergy, built up morale, and repaired or protected reputations? And so I hope that this was an edifying journey through the exploration of the ancient concept of be not a respecter of persons. You take care, and all the best, and bear positive harvests.